What if I told you that when you die, you will not escape, that you will be forced to live this exact life again? Every choice, every betrayal, every regret, every mask you wore, every shadow you ran from, over and over, for eternity. This is Nietzsche's Eternal Recurrence, not a thought experiment, but a psychological crucifixion. And Carl Jung, the master of the unconscious, showed us why it matters. Because the parts of yourself you deny are not dead. They are predators. They are masks that devour your soul. They are ghosts that haunt your dreams. Imagine being trapped in this endless cycle, hunted by your own shadow, wearing a persona so convincing you forget who you are, carrying regrets heavy enough to chain you forever. This is not philosophy. It is a nightmare dressed as reality. And the only way out is through confrontation. In this journey, we will enter the darkness, the shadow as predator, the mask that consumes you, the unconscious as a graveyard, and individuation as psychological warfare. If you want to live without regret, you must face what you fear most, yourself. You believe you are in control. You believe your choices, your desires, your emotions belong to you. But you are mistaken. Something else is at work. Something older, darker, and far more cunning than your conscious mind. Jung called it the shadow. The shadow is not a metaphor. It is not some harmless idea in psychology books. It is the predator that lives within you. Every rage you suppress, every envy you deny, every forbidden desire you bury, they do not disappear. They retreat into the darkness of the unconscious. And there, in the silence, they sharpen their claws. They bide their time. And when you are weakest, when your guard is lowered, they strike. Think of the times you lost control. The sudden outburst you swore wasn't you. The obsession you couldn't resist. The betrayal you committed against your own values. Those weren't accidents. Those were ambushes. That was the shadow, seizing the wheel. The shadow is the beast stalking your life. Ignore it and it will drag you into cycles of regret over and over again. Jung warned us, the shadow will not be denied. If you do not face it willingly, it will consume you completely. But here is the paradox. The shadow is not just your enemy. It is also your power. Inside the predator lies your strength, your vitality, your creativity, your authenticity. But to claim it, you must first enter the hunt. You must confront the monster in its lair. So how do you begin? You name it. You drag it into the light. Write down your recurring failures, your repeating betrayals, your destructive patterns. Trace them back. See the beast's footprints in the story of your life. And then, face them directly. In therapy, in journaling, in brutally honest self-confrontation, the only way to stop being hunted is to become the hunter. The world does not see you. It sees the mask you wear. Jung called it the persona, the face we construct to survive in society, to please others, to win approval. On the surface, it seems harmless, necessary even. Who could function without it? But here is the truth Jung understood. The mask is not just protection, it is a parasite. Every time you silence your true thoughts to fit in, every time you fake a smile to hide your despair, every time you betray what you want to play a role for someone else, the mask grows stronger and the real self grows weaker. At first, it feels convenient. It keeps you safe. It wins you praise. But slowly, the mask begins to consume you. What once was a tool becomes a cage. And eventually, you forget where the mask ends and where you begin. Imagine this horror. To live the eternal recurrence not as yourself, but as the mask forever. Every false laugh, every empty conversation, every hollow identity, repeated endlessly. This is not survival. This is psychological death stretched across eternity. And still we cling to it, because removing the mask feels like tearing off our own skin. Without it, we fear rejection. We fear exile. We fear that who we are beneath will not be enough. But this fear is the trap. The more we hide, the more we vanish, until nothing remains but the performance. So what can you do? The first step is to notice when you are acting. Catch yourself when your words are hollow, when your smile is painted, when your actions are not aligned with your truth. Write it down. see the patterns, and then start stripping away, one false layer at a time. Begin with something small. Speak one truth you would normally bury. Refuse one performance that suffocates you. Allow yourself to be seen, even if only in fragments, because every mask you burn is one step closer to your authentic self. The persona will resist. It will cling. But if you want to escape regret, you must break its grip. The mask was meant to serve you, not devour you. Wear it when necessary, but never let it own you. Because nothing is more terrifying than an eternity lived as a lie. What if every choice you made, every lie you told, every mask you wore, had to be lived again? Not once, not twice, but for all eternity. This is Nietzsche's nightmare, the eternal recurrence. Imagine being asked, would you embrace your life, exactly as it is, over and over forever? Or would that thought crush you beneath its weight? This is where Nietzsche and Jung collide. For Jung, the shadow is not only what you hide, it is the predator stalking you in the dark corners of your psyche, ensuring you cannot escape yourself. For Nietzsche, the eternal recurrence forces you to confront whether the life you live is worthy of repetition, or whether you are condemned to eternal regret. The truth is brutal. If you cannot face your shadow, if you cling to the mask that devours you, the cycle becomes a curse. You are trapped in patterns, manipulated by fear, repeating the same betrayals of yourself. But if you confront the predator within, if you burn away the false persona, the eternal recurrence transforms into liberation. Life without regret is not freedom from pain, nor a fantasy of perfection. It is the willingness to embrace your scars, your darkness, your failures, and to say, yes, I would live this again. That is the test. The eternal recurrence is not a theory to debate. It is a weapon aimed at your soul. Either it annihilates you or it awakens you. The only way forward is radical ownership of your existence. The courage to integrate your shadow, to live authentically, to choose a life that, even in repetition, would be worth living. Ask yourself, if tonight the demon whispered to you, this moment, this path, this mask you wear, you must repeat it eternally. Would you scream in despair, or would you nod knowing you have faced your darkness and still chosen to live without regret? We imagine ourselves standing before the question of eternal recurrence, the thought experiment Nietzsche called the heaviest weight. To live your life over again, in every detail, eternally. Most recoil, not because their lives are too tragic, but because they are too hollow, too filled with avoidance. Jung warned us, what we do not confront rules us. What we repress does not disappear. It festers, it grows, it circles like a predator in the night. Avoidance is not silence. It is a pact with the very forces you fear. Refuse to meet your shadow, and it becomes stronger, more cunning, more merciless. Hide behind your persona, the mask society taught you to wear, and you will forget there is even a face beneath. The mask consumes until you become what you pretended to be. What happens to the soul that avoids? It decays. Relationships are poisoned by unspoken truths. Dreams turn gray. Creativity dies, replaced with consumption and distraction. And when the eternal recurrence whispers, would you live this life again? Your heart answers with dread. To avoid is to live half dead. The price is not pain. The price is emptiness. And emptiness is the most terrifying fate of all. After the silence of avoidance, something shifts. The eternal recurrence is no longer a curse, but a mirror, a divine test. Imagine hearing that demon's whisper, this life, as you have lived it, you will live again and again. Do you collapse, or do you burn? Fire has always been the element of transformation. It devours, but it also refines. To choose the eternal recurrence is to walk into fire willingly, to say yes to every triumph, every humiliation, every love, every betrayal, every lonely night, every radiant morning. To say yes not because it was easy, but because it was yours. This is the death of avoidance. The coward flees from his shadow. The brave descend into it, torch in hand. Jung called this individuation, the uniting of all fragments into one self. Fire is the forge. You do not escape the shadow. You stand in it until its darkness becomes your strength. And when you emerge, you are unrecognizable. The mask burns away. The hollow shell collapses. You become a creature of affirmation, one who can look at fate, at time, at eternity itself and declare, repeat it. I would live it again. I choose it. This is freedom. Not freedom from life, but freedom for life. Not escape, but embrace. The one who chooses eternal recurrence chooses to live as though every action must be worthy of eternity. Every step, immortal. Every breath, forever. And in that choice, the terror of recurrence transforms into its opposite, joy. The joy of one who has passed through fire and no longer fears. A soul untouchable. A life redeemed.